Alabama Nation, what is going on? Good morning. It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. Sunday, September 17th. Yeah, I slept in a little bit. My goodness. There was a lot of football last night between Alabama and Colorado State. The number one Crimson Tide defeats the Colorado State Rams 41-23 on Saturday night at Bryant-Denny Stadium. 101,000. Watch Alabama earn its third victory of the season. Wanted to talk a little bit about the game today after I've had a couple hours to digest it, a couple hours to sleep it off. And, for the most part, Alabama did what we expected them to do. I think that, scoring 41 points last night was somewhere, where the offense has been through the last couple weeks. And I thought we saw some good production and some good balance between the passing and the running game for Alabama. A couple things that really jump out to me when I look at the box score, the play of Jalen Hurts, and I think we've talked about it a lot throughout the last couple hours. But the sophomore continues to really prove just how dynamic he is come each Saturday. I mean, last night he was 12 of 17 passing, 248 yards with 2 touchdowns. He ran for 11 carries, 103 yards, totaling 351 yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. He's actually tied now with former Alabama running back Trent Richardson at 7th all-time in touchdowns with 43. His play really propels Alabama's offense. And I think there were times last night where he missed some wide receivers. He didn't see some wide receivers downfield. But in the end, when the game comes down to it, and when the game's on the line or when you need a big play, he's your guy. And he continues to excel and execute. And Nick Saban thought he played wonderful. He talked about that after the game. He said, thought Jalen played great, as did I. So another big performance by the young sophomore. Now, the one area that I'm really curious about going forward is Alabama's rushing attack as a whole. Now, for the second straight week, Alabama quarterback Jalen Hurts has led the team in rushing. And I find these stats a little bit interesting. Bo Scarborough, 12 carries last night, 68 yards. Damian Harris, 11 carries, 53 yards. Najee Harris, 4 carries, 11 yards. Now, in my opinion, last night was the best game that we saw from Bo Scarborough all year. I think we saw glimpses and flashes of his play. And there was a couple times where it felt like he was going to bust a big run out, but Colorado State made some good tackles and brought him down. But, his average 5.5. And Damian Harris, I think, as we've talked about before, he seems to be Alabama's most complete back. And finished the night last night with 11 carries for 53 yards. So no Alabama running back has eclipsed the 100-yard mark in a game this season, which I find pretty interesting. And I think last night there was a couple times that Najee Harris, just couldn't get things going. And we're going to see big games from these guys going forward, but it seems to be a running back by committee. In total, Alabama ran the football last night 39 times for 239 yards, passing 248 yards. So some great balance from Alabama's offense. And it was a quick strike offense to lead off the game with the Jalen Hurts 27-yard touchdown run with just 12:43 in the game, followed by a 78-yard touchdown from Jalen Hurts to Calvin Ridley. And then following that, it seemed like Alabama really had control of the game. And then there was an Andy Pompanakis 46-yard field goal, which the longest of the season. My goodness, 46 yards. I don't think Alabama had a field goal last year over 40 yards. So Andy Pompanakis coming through, and Alabama actually tried a 52-yard field goal last night with J.K. Scott. He missed it just barely. I mean, it looked like it had the distance from my angle at least. Defensively speaking, last night gave up 23 points to Colorado State, which was the most that Alabama has allowed this season. I guess I'm a little bit surprised by that, but then again, Colorado State, we knew that they were going to put points on the board and entered the game with Nick Stevens, who was leading the nation in passing. Of course, Colorado State had played 3 games already. But still, Nick Stevens was spinning the ball. And last night, Nick Stevens for Colorado State finished with 21 passes for 38 attempts, threw 2 interceptions and threw 2 touchdowns. 247 yards total. That was his first time this season that he's been held under 300 yards. Um, I believe it's Dominic Dawkins, the running back for Colorado State. He had a nice game last night. 10 carries, 59 yards. Alabama did a good job bottling him up. And then Alabama did a really good job stopping Michael Gallup for Colorado State, who was their top receiver coming into the game. 4 receptions for 70 yards. However, I think that, there was some times in the game that Michael Gallup seemed to get the best of Levi Wallace. And I think that Colorado State's wide receivers did good job putting themselves into position to make good catches. And I think Alabama's secondary has some room to improve. And I'm kind of questioning whether Alabama just has one really good corner, and that would be Anthony Averett on one side, and then the other side, it's going to be who's going to play best this week. Is it going to be Trayvon Diggs, or is it going to be Levi Wallace? Or in big time games, are they going to have to really change things up and put Minka Fitzpatrick out there as well on the corner? Because, in my opinion, at least from watching the game last night, it doesn't feel that Levi Wallace or Trayvon Diggs is capable right now of stopping a big-time receiver if they are paired up against one. You're listening to the BamaInsider.com podcast, post-game podcast, as we continue to break down Colorado State versus Alabama. The Crimson Tide moves to 3-0 after defeating the Rams on Saturday evening, 41-23. On the defensive side, looking at the stat box, Keith Holcomb, Tuscaloosa native, has a big game on Saturday, recording a total of 9 tackles. Now, last game against Fresno State, he had 7 tackles. So 16 tackles in the last 2 games. Pretty impressive for Keith Holcomb, who's really stepping up for what's been a hampered linebacking core for Alabama. Deron Payne, Alabama's defensive tackle, had 6 tackles last night. I thought he did a good job, though. I was watching him several times, and he was plugging the middle of the field. And what's great about Deron Payne is he can chase down some running backs or quarterbacks, and he's really shown some great athleticism, and I think that's going to bode well for him as he finishes out this year and potentially looks to future endeavors, because he's quite the player, Deron Payne. Sean Dion Hamilton continues to have a very solid season. 6 tackles last night. Chris Allen, the freshman, getting out there with 5 tackles. Same with Ronnie Harrison, who I think has been just stellar all season. Levi Wallace also with 5 tackles. And then you had interceptions from Ronnie Harrison. And then how about Hootie Jones? First interception of the season. I thought on that play with Hootie Jones when he caught that interception, number one, Colorado State's quarterback Nick Stevens threw it right to him. And then number 2, it looked like to me that Hootie Jones was going to take it to the house. I'm not sure how he didn't. There was a big block on the play too. But Hootie Jones, with the big interception, I was hoping that he'd take it to the house, but he didn't. All in all, I thought the defense did really well. Minka Fitzpatrick continues to shine, 6 tackles last night as well. I think where this Alabama defense needs to improve, I mean, maybe there's not a lot of areas, but I think they need to improve just by getting some of these guys back that are dinged up. And I think next week we'll probably see Rashaan Evans back on the field for Alabama at the middle linebacker position. Because there was multiple times last night that Colorado State just held the football and went on these really long drives. I think there was 2 scoring drives. I'm looking at the stats right now that were over 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Some of the later drives by Colorado State, maybe they weren't that long. But still, it looks like there was a drive where Colorado State that was scored. It was 11 plays, 85 yards, lasted almost 7 minutes. There was another time that Colorado State held the football for almost 5 minutes and marched down the field 11 plays and 75 yards. And it seemed like the defense is, I saw some hands on the hips. It seems like they might have been a little bit tired, but also a lot of these younger guys are having to step step up at the linebacking position. And it looked like Jamie Mosley was in street clothes. Dylan Moses, the freshman, he didn't play. Keith Holcomb trying to step up along with Sean Dion Hamilton, freshman Chris Allen trying to get in there. But Alabama's been dinged up. Think about these are all the linebackers, okay? Christian Miller out for the season. Terrell Lewis out for the season. Dylan Moses probably week to week with a concussion. Rashawn Evans, he's out. It looks like he'll be back next week. Jamie Mosley, street clothes for the second half. That's 5 linebackers. 5 for Alabama that are dinged up, out. So a lot of these guys, that we're seeing in the stat box, Keith Holcomb, Chris Allen, Sean Dion Hamilton, Mac Wilson. I mean, these guys obviously holding it down, but I mean they're stretched thin. These guys aren't getting a blow. They're having to go the whole time, and that's due to just not having the depth. So while Alabama has the depth that college football programs don't have, you're starting to see that affect them a little bit, and hopefully for Alabama fans' sake, some of these guys get back so the Alabama defense can get the offense off the field and get Alabama's potent offense back onto the field. You're listening to the BamaInsider.com podcast with Kyle Henderson. Going solo today. Had a couple hours to digest Alabama's 41-23 victory over Colorado State. Just talking some football, looking at the box score today. Alabama's offense, okay? Last night, 487 yards of offense off 60 plays. It's pretty impressive. Third down conversions, they're much improved last night. Last week against Fresno State, I believe they were 4 of 16. They were terrible last week on third downs. This week, much improved, 7-12. Does the offense, I guess this is a question for the message board, but what is the offense's identity right now? Is it just let Jalen Hurts just change the game and, put him back there and put the football in the best hands of your best player and just let him go? It doesn't seem like they have a power rushing attack. They can beat you deep. I mean, they did it twice last night with some big scores. But does this offense really have an identity? What is it? I mean, I don't know. It's interesting to talk about. And so what they've scored 41, 41, and 24, which is an average of 35.3 points a game. But as I look at this Alabama offense, maybe from an outside perspective, what do they do well? I think Alabama has showed good balance. They can make the big play. Jalen Hurts can obviously make the big play. Alabama hasn't shown that they're going to have a featured back this year. They haven't showed for the most part that they can pick up a key third down. They've shown that they can hit a big field goal. They've showed that they have good special teams. This might be the biggest takeaway so far from Alabama's offense through the first 3 games. They have not turned over the football. And we could critique Alabama's offense many different ways. They've played 3 games. We've had plenty of time to see them. But they have not turned over the football, and they continue to be successful in the red zone. Last night, Alabama was 2 of 3 in the red zone. It's really the first time this season that they haven't scored when in the red zone. So Alabama has shown great success keeping the football in their hands and scoring once in the red zone. And I think those are the biggest takeaways. We have to also remember that this is Brian Daboll's first year running the offense, and it's going to take some time for them to find some true identity. So I think Alabama fans need to be patient and trust in the system. Alabama's putting a lot of points on the board. Last year, Alabama averaged, I'm looking at the chart, I believe, give me a second while I look it up. The offense last year averaged 38.8 points per game. This year, Alabama's averaging 35.3 points per game. So Alabama's offense still very productive, and they're going to have another game this next weekend where they're going to be favored against Vanderbilt, who looked very good on Saturday as well. and we'll see what Alabama can do. Moving forward on the podcast, we're going to play some of Nick Saban's press conference from Saturday night, internalize it a little bit more, and then we're going to talk back on the message board about what does Alabama need to do moving forward to stay undefeated, stay at the top of the ranks, and is this Alabama team beatable? If you want to talk about those topics, feel free to join us on the Talk of Champions forum. For the BamaInsider.com podcast, this is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Until next time, my friends, we'll talk soon.
Well, I was really pleased with the way we came out and started fast in this game, really on both sides of the ball. I think that's something that we have not done in our 3 games, and that was certainly the goal, to try to come out and sort of be a dominant team. But we didn't sustain that, and we didn't finish the game like we needed to. I started to try to play some other players and didn't do a very good job functionally. And really kind of let them back in the game. But that experience will be good for those players down the road. We didn't execute very well defensively, and I think not stopping the run, not getting off field on 3rd down, didn't play great in the red zone. So we have a lot of work to do. We made a lot of mental errors. We made a lot of mental errors with new guys playing, in some cases different positions. So the continuity and the togetherness is not what it needs to be on that side of the ball. I really thought the offense did a great job. Jalen played an outstanding game today, running pass. And if, we'd have left those guys in there, I think they'd have continued to, do a good job in the game. But I thought we'd do a little bit better job on defense and be able to play some other players. And that's something that, we'd have loved to do, but just couldn't play more guys. But it's a great win for us. We got SEC games coming up. I think everybody's got to sort of look around and, not think so much about we and us, but a lot about I. What can I do better to make us a better team? And I think that should be the focus that we have so that we can continue to improve and, play better as a team. So, that's going to be the focus. That's going to be the goal. That's what we're going to, try to do in this, starting the SEC season this week.
You talked after each of the first 2 games about needing some of the guys around Jalen to do a little bit more to help him. Did you like seeing a couple of the wide receivers make plays tonight?
I thought we had a lot of guys make plays in the last game. I thought we have capable guys, and it was good to see a lot of different guys make plays tonight. I think that's what we need. That kind of diversity, more guys that are playmakers. And, I think, 2 backs really played well in the game, Bo and Damian. I think, 4 or 5 of the receivers did a really nice job. So just got to continue to build on that.
Just wondering, after that first quarter, I think they had 11 yards, and then pretty big second quarter for Colorado State in the second quarter. What do you think happened there? Did they change anything? Did anything change on your end?
No, they have a really good offensive scheme, and they've got good offensive players. And the quarterback did a good job for them. There were some 3rd down situations, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10. You got to get off the field in those situations where they made plays that we normally would make that we didn't make, and that allowed them to keep the ball. We busted a coverage, gave him a 50-yard play, where corner fired, nobody covered his guy. So, we didn't execute. That's what happened. We didn't execute. And playing against good players who can make plays and respect them for what they can do, when you don't do what you're supposed to do and do it well, that they're going to make plays. And they made some plays that I wasn't pleased with, that we need to do a better job of executing on.
You've talked about wanting more explosive plays in the passing game. How big was Robert's catch right there to kind of steal momentum, and how big were just the explosive plays you guys got?
Well, I think it was huge because they had gotten the momentum in the game. We got ahead 17-0 and scored, 2 straight drives, a touchdown and a field goal. For us to answer the bell and come back and score points on that drive, I think was huge, especially going in at halftime. But, you know, you allow teams like this to think they can play with you, and they do, and they play better as the game goes on. And when you don't execute and do what you got to do, you know, when the fullback goes out in the flat and somebody's got to cover him and the guy doesn't cover him, I mean, it's hard to play good. So, you know, I think it was huge right before the half.
Yeah, just wanted to get an update on Miller Forrestall. Saw he left the game in the third quarter.
You know, he has a knee, and probably it'll be confirmed tomorrow, but he's probably got an ACL. At least we'll get an MRI to confirm it. If that's the case, he'll be out for the year.
What do you see out of the running backs today, especially since you mentioned Bo and Damian specifically?
I think those two guys played great. I think Bo probably was as explosive as he's been all year. I think Damian ran with a lot of passion, a lot of toughness. Did a good job. I thought the offensive line did a little better job today, and we had a little better protection, and we had some pretty good holes to run through, and those guys did a good job of being physical and hitting it downhill and running it well.
Talk about some of the defensive issues you had today. How much of that stemmed from lack of a pass rush? Obviously, you got some guys missing, but it doesn't seem like you've been able to develop that much this early on.
Well, most of the passes came out quick, so I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of pass rush. We didn't execute pressures very well. You know, we made a couple interceptions, which were, you know, huge in the game, I think, and, you know, turning the game around. But look, all these things are issues. You know, we've got 5 linebackers that aren't playing. And I don't care who you are, what team you are, that creates some issues and some problems. It hurts us in nickel because they're not as big. It hurts us playing the run. Forces us to play guys at different positions. So, you know, but we got to get the guys that we have better, and we're going to work hard to do that. And we're going to take the things that they did well and build on it and try to make corrections with the things that they didn't do. So you must have a date.
Yeah,
Seems like in a real hurry to get out of here.
You guys put the starters back in the game on offense late in the game. What was the rationale behind that, and was it a message you were trying to send to the team?
Well, I mean, they're trying to kick an onside kick. You know, they're still trying to win the game. And I thought, you know, our defense was tired. We played too many plays in the game. We couldn't get off the field on third down. We played the whole fourth quarter and didn't make any first downs with the other guys in the game. So we weren't going to give them the ball back. That was the rationale. Did I want to do that? No. If you want to criticize me for it, fine. But they weren't going to get the ball back because I didn't think, you know, we weren't stopping them, and they were trying to win the game. I mean, you know, I tried to play a lot of players in the game, and maybe we tried to do it too soon. I thought it was important to get Tua, you know, a little more time to play, especially with some better players in the game rather than putting the whole 2s in there. Kept scoring on the defense, so they kind of got back in the game. So we weren't trying to score. We're just trying to take the air out of it. All right. Thank you.